What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. Are you going to do another top 10 coaches in the league video like you did last year? I'm not sure what the numbers were, but it seemed like it was a big hit. I'm curious to see if guys like Sean Payton make it on the list a year after being omitted last year. And does Kevin O'Connell get a spot? That's a good idea, actually. Let me take a little note. I think we did something last year for social and it blew up. I would say that both those guys would be on the list, yes. Coach list. I'd like to take a little... I mean, listen, Sean Payton's one of the best coaches in the league. There's no disputing that. It was just hard after the Russell Wilson situation. They had a game where they gave up 70 points. So I did not see that coming last year. I did not. Blew me away. And listen, I'm critical of Kevin O'Connell because I think it's fair to be like, why doesn't Lamar play better in the playoffs? Right? Like, why doesn't Kevin O'Connell coach better in the playoffs? Like, that's a fair happens in basketball all the time. What's up with James Harden in the playoffs? What's up with it? Like, why doesn't Joel Embiid suck in the playoffs? Like, you can ask these questions, and no one likes to ask these questions. That's all I'm doing. Like, I've never acted like I wouldn't want Kevin O'Connell as my coach, but he's had a couple playoff games with teams that won 12 and like 14 games and lost them both as favorites. That happened. That's a fact. It's not an opinion. Why is nobody talking about the obvious issue with the NFL having equity in ESPN? It's a complete conflict of interest. How can I trust the journalistic integrity of ESPN and its content? For context, I'm a CPA, an auditor. In public accounting, and I must remain independent at all times from my clients. My independence must be both in fact, I cannot own stock equity, and in appearance, I can't take favors, tickets, gifts. The NFL ESPN deal doesn't have either. That's because they're not in the journalist business. Journalism, I would say, is dying a hard death. And I think a big reason why is we can't monetize it like we once could. We used to be able to monetize a lot of things that came with ESPN. ESPN the magazine, ESPN the website. Those don't matter as much anymore. You know what does? The games, which equate to all of the revenue for ESPN and bring the value. It's why they spent all this money on the NBA, and it's why they spent all this money on the NFL. You know why? Because they want those properties on their, and same with college football and college basketball. They want the games. That's the business they're in. They don't care about someone writing an article about Roger Goodell. Doesn't make them any money. And they're not in the charity business. They're in the profit business. So there's a reason why about a decade ago when the written word started to slow down and a lot of big J's got really mad. It's like, guys, the reason newspapers dominated for so long is they were an advertising distribution network. Well, as humans stopped buying the newspapers didn't generate the same amount of money and didn't have the same power, so they started laying you off. They didn't lay you off because they hate the written word. It just didn't profit anymore. ESPN, their top shows, non-games, are like Get Up and First Take that have nothing to do with journalism. I've seen a lot of people, and I think the media cares about this way more. I understand where you're coming from because you're in this world of conflicts of interest. You know what the only interest for ESPN is? How do we get more in bed with the NFL? How do we get more games? How do we get a Super Bowl? How do we get more NFL? That's the business they're in. They're not worried about, hey, Seth Wickersham, who is good, what he can and can't write. That's completely irrelevant. It just is. So the days of like, and I've seen a lot of people, what's going to happen with the journalistic integrity? Do you just see what they're talking about on First Take? Like, where's the journalistic integrity? Like, what are we even talking about? This is all entertainment. And they are in the business of getting involved in getting the games. So you do whatever it takes to get the games. I also think the NFL, for the most part, they don't get mad at people talking about individual teams and honestly, even the individual owners. The only time ESPN had trouble, which rightfully so, is they had a lot of journalists rooting for football to go under. I mean, that was a fact. I mean, football is the biggest sport, it's the most profitable sport, even at the time. And there were a lot of people on their network rooting for it to basically go bankrupt, essentially. And Bill Simmons got in trouble going after Goodell. So when you go after the individual commissioner or the health of the league, but like you can rip on the coaches and players as much as you want. I mean, First Take does it every day. No one cares. So I actually don't think anything's really going to change from what ESPN has been. But if journalism was more important to the consumer, newspapers would still be thriving. But they're not, you know? So I think that's overblown. I guess would my overall take be about ESPN's responsibility to journalism. And let's be real. Most listen, I respect like being a journalist and doing it the right way is really difficult, but I would say that most journalists have become activists. So you could argue that a lot of journalism, what used to be 20, 30 years ago, has died. Got me entertained by golf. I'm from Houston, but I grew up a Packer fan. Thoughts on Texans versus Packers in the Super Bowl? I think the Texans defense is going to be elite. I think their defense is going to be so good. Now the only question is going to be the offensive coordinator. Can CJ bounce back? If their offense is solid, they're going to be pretty good. Obviously the Packers are going. Love's hurt. I think is Jaden Reed hurt. They got some injuries right now. It's August 13th. I'm pretty high on the Packers. I'm going to bet them to. I'm going to do like I was looking at this the other day. I'm going to do a couple different parlays. And my go-tos are going to consistently be the Packers to win that division at plus 250, and the Texans are my lock. So the Texans at plus 110 are my anchor. And then I'm going to do like multiple different parlays with the Packers. I might even throw the Vikings in there too. The Niners to win the division, the Broncos and the Chiefs to win the division. I'm going to mess with a couple of those. But I'm going to anchor on the Houston Texans at plus 110. If you said right now, you have to throw an uncomfortable amount of money on one team in the NFL to win the division, and they can't have like minus odds, like the Bills or the Ravens, right? Can't do that. Or the Eagles. I can't bet on those teams. You got to bet a team that has plus odds, right? It wouldn't even be a hesitation. It'd be the Houston Texans. I think they win that division by several games. You don't need to sink a 30-foot putt to score big this weekend. Just fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook app and take your shot at the green, the kind with dollar signs. Whether you're a diehard golf fan like myself or just in it for the Sunday drama, DraftKings has everything you need to make the round a little more exciting. Live bets, prop plays, and odds boosts. Here's the thing. Are you new to betting on golf? You can bet on the winner. You can bet on a guy to top 5. You can bet on a guy to top 10. My bet last week, I'm going to roll over again. I got Scotty to win, and I parlayed that with Tommy Fleetwood and Ben Griffin, 2 top 10. I think if you want to have a little action on Scotty, he was one missed putt away from being in the playoffs. We know Fleetwood's not going to win, but he's going to be in the mix. Ben Griffin is hot right now. One other guy, Cam Young. So between Cam Young, Tommy Fleetwood, and Ben Griffin, I like those guys to top 10, and I think Scotty Scheffler gets it done. So any sort of combination with those guys this week, I'm fired up on. Take your swing at winning some dough this week. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Were you around for Super Bowl 50? And I know what the right, and I want to know what the right way is to experience this upcoming Super Bowl 60 in the Bay Area. I'm from Northern California and would love to go home to experience the event if the Niners aren't in the show. Hopefully the actual SF City gets involved and not just Santa Clara. I did my radio show from Radio Row. All the events will be in San Francisco. The only thing in Santa Clara was the games, and I think a team stayed down there, and they practiced like San Jose. But the Super Bowl experience, which was really well done in the convention center, like right in downtown San Francisco on like 3rd Street, it's like 3rd and I forget the other cross street. I haven't been downtown in years, but it's like three or four streets south of Market. Um, yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's a cool experience. I would recommend it if you want to go to the Super Bowl experience. It's just fun. It's just easy event to just kind of walk around and kind of take it all in. I actually went to that game as well. The Super Bowl, the game is much more like a corporate experience. I would say the whole week. It's just like a corporate event. It is like a corporate football convention for the fans and the partners. It's not if you go like Chiefs Bills, right, in an AFC Championship game or a regular season game or Eagles Washington, wherever that game is being played, it's about the football and the purity of trying to win and the fans all there. The Super Bowl is not really like that. Super Bowl's I feel like it's the NFL's way to say thank you to all their partners. So the reason I went to the game was because I was there with my cousin who worked in the beer business. So that's where we got our tickets from, like Miller Coors. You know, it's most of the tickets and most of the people were not like, you know, it was Broncos Panthers, but it didn't feel like some huge contingent of, you know, it wasn't like 50-50 Broncos. That's not what it's like. So it's just the game's unique, but that week, especially Thursday, Friday, Saturday, are pretty cool. And I was there in Vegas too. I mean, shit, I've only been to the game once, but I've been to Miami, I've been to Vegas, I've been to New Orleans. Super Bowl's cool. It's fun. And congrats on all your success moving to Cali. Love hearing your investments you're into. Do we think someone asked me the other day because I had made a comment about like, hey, I'm invested in this one stock that is not very pretty, but if it hits, I'm going to be really rich. It was Open Door, which I'm still in. I've actually added more. I had a day where I was down 75%, and within a week, that stock was up 100%. It's the craziest shift, and I have a sizable chunk of money relative to my net worth in the stock. I didn't sell a penny, but riding that, I was actually insecure to brag about it because at the time, I think I was minus 78% when I opened up stock probably a month ago or 2 months, whenever I brought it up. And I had a couple people like, what's that stock you're in that you think could hit big? I was not confident enough to even mention it to anyone else because it could have gone to zero. But I was like, I'm like Chris Ballard, hoping Anthony Richardson is the next Josh Allen with Open Door. And then all of a sudden, I don't know if it was in the meme craze, the short squeeze. It's one of the craziest. Seeing the amount of money I was down to the amount of money I was up, but I was like, hey, I was in this for the long haul to try to get a 20xer, not just a 1xer. But then it came down, and I'm basically up like 10% now. But it was a fun little ride. I would have sold if I would have been early to like. I've been doing this long enough to kind of be numb to that, and I thought about it. I'm like, should I just take like some little cash, spending money? Do we think TreVeyon Henderson has a shot to be the next Gibbs? Did you see his first touchdown? Ever went for a touchdown? Listen, he's a home run hitter. You get that dude in open grass, he can fly. I think here's the thing with Gibbs. Gibbs is good at everything. He can run inside, he can run off tackle, and he is elite at catching the ball. So the way to be Gibbs is you basically have to be able to do it all. And, you know, I would imagine Vrabel and those guys now with a month into training camp have a better idea how he is out of the backfield catching the football. But I'd also say that looking at he had 27 catches last year. He had 27 catches as a rookie, so he can catch the ball. We know that Josh McDaniels loves throwing the ball to, you know, they had how many running backs that they have over the years with Brady that they passed to a lot out of the backfield. I mean, hell, probably 7 years ago, maybe even less. I played golf in the Bay Area with Shane Vereen. He was working at the Pac-12 network, and I probably for 9 of the 18 holes, I was just peppering him with McDaniels, Belichick, Brady, Gronk questions. I mean, he was really, really good. And then he got a big contract to go to the Giants, then he got injured. But he's a good example. He was really good out of the backfield. He was excellent in the open field as a runner. So if you can catch the ball with Josh McDaniels in that offense, we know that Vrabel loves running backs. I don't see why he couldn't be an excellent player. Like Gibbs, he's really fast. Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty bullish on the guy. He's a home run hitter. So I'd say that's what him and Gibbs share in common. These past few weeks, I've seen quite a bit of media segments dedicated yet again to Brock Purdy. Of course, it's always polarizing. If he goes for something in the realm of 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 win seasons, do you think pundits in big audience legacy media shows will start to finally credit him as an undisputed top 12 quarterback? I even saw in Sando's quarterback tiers that Dak Prescott was above him. Jordan Love was as well, which Brock Purdy's had a better start to his career than Jordan Love. Like, that's not really debatable. Now, if you wanted to argue that Jordan Love has more physical traits and you're betting on the physical traits this year, it's like I could hear that argument. But based on the evidence, Brock Purdy's been a better player than Jordan Love. And it's not even arguable when it comes to Dak Prescott. I mean, one of the all time meltdown guys in the playoffs. But one of the quotes in there was, why do we keep talking about the draft and his draft status? It's over. It's years ago. All this guy does is make plays on the field. And I just think that and they also compared him to Baker. Baker's more physically gifted from an arm strength standpoint. But this coach said that he thought that Purdy is just better anticipatory thrower and sees a little bit better. Purdy's really good. Yet everyone shits on him because if Purdy was the third overall pick and had been Trey Lance, and Trey Lance has just done with Brock Purdy, everyone would be saying the guy's a top 6, 7 quarterback in the league, 5, 6 quarterback. But instead, he's the last pick in the draft. Everyone says he's too short. His arm sucks. Kyle Shanahan. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. And I saw a bunch of people like, God, Jalen Hurts is behind CJ Stroud and Justin Herbert. I do not understand why people get so caught up on this. At the end of the day, football is a team game. And if you're an Eagles fan, would you rather have Joe Burrow in the Bengals season? Well, hey, everyone anoints my quarterback as one of the best players in the league. My team goes 9 wins. My quarterback throws 45 touchdowns. Or would you rather be the Eagles, where everyone's like, yeah, maybe he's a top 10 quarterback, but you have the best team in the league and you won the Super Bowl? Like, this isn't fucking tennis or golf. It's a team game. So same thing with Brock Purdy. Last time I checked, Joe Montana had Ronnie Lott playing defense, had Charles Haley rushing the passer, threw it to Jerry Rice, handed it to Roger Craig, had some pretty good players. Dwight Clark, barreling down the seam. Like, it's hard to be a good player at quarterback. Like, ask Patrick Mahomes what it was like to be a rookie throwing to Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Probably didn't suck. If you could have beers with one person currently employed by an NFL team, who would it be? Can't be a player, coach, or executive. Someone you've met before or never met before. Oh, it can be a coach or an executive. Just someone you think would be a lot of fun and an interesting hang. Well, I think you'd have to make two decisions. If you're going to go player, you'd have to go quarterback. And I'm pretty confident if I spend time with someone, especially in that setting. I always thought this when I was single. I could punch above my weight. The hardest thing for me to do with a beautiful girl was to get the date. If I got the date, like, I was gonna be okay. Right? I hung my hat on personality. But I was never gonna look like Tom Brady walking in the room. But if you got me the one-on-one and like went out to dinner, like, it's gonna be a successful if I want it to be. I was that confident in my ability. I wasn't always confident. Like, sometimes it was hard to get that, like, her to be like, whether in a bar situation, whether it be especially internet dating. Like, I'm not Brad Pitt here. I would say the same thing in that situation. So if you gave me a one-on-one over beers, like, we're gonna build a relationship and have friendship, right? So it would be if you're gonna pick a coach, you would want. Luckily, I already know some guys, but it would be a guy I didn't know, and a guy who's gonna have a lot of success, right? I don't know Shanahan, but Shanahan's not a big, like, bullshit hang out with the media guy, right? So even if I got in that situation, I think it would be a tough nut to crack. I think the two guys would be, if it was a coach, Kevin O'Connell, who, listen, I've been hard on him, but Andy Reid didn't win a Super Bowl until he was like 20 plus years in the league. So it's like, who's to say Kevin O'Connell couldn't have like a 20-year run of being a great coach? And Sean McVay already is one, but like he's 40 years old. He's not going away. And even if he pivoted to like, I don't know, be the analyst for Monday Night Football, he'd just be a good guy to have. So it'd probably be one of those two guys. From a coaching standpoint, if you went quarterback, you would say, well, why would I overthink this? I could just pick Mahomes uh, because he's not going away. His team's not going away. He's one of the most famous athletes in the world, I guess in America, but like in the sport that we talk about here. So you could go him. You could go like I could go Jaden Daniels and go, well, what if he just becomes, I mean, the next superstar? A little risky. Could also just like could have a step back year, then maybe solid, but he's never like a superstar. I think I'd probably it would either be probably Mahomes or one of those two coaches would probably be my final answer. I guess I'd go Josh Allen. You would want a player who was going to, and it'd have to be a quarterback, was going to be around for a long time. And be a good personality, good interview, guy you'd want to be friends with. In your opinion, what are the odds a team successfully trades for Tanner McKee of the Eagles this season? I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm biased, but every time the kid touches the field, he looks like a starter. I just would not trade him if I was Philadelphia because, and Howie's talked about this, no team in NFL history has benefited more from I can't spell his name, McKee, from the backup quarterback, right? I mean, Jalen's not a backup quarterback, obviously, but he was drafted to be a backup quarterback. And then they went to two Super Bowls with him, won one. They also won another Super Bowl with the backup quarterback. So Tanner McKee, what year was he drafted? 23. So 23, 24. You got him under contract for 2 more years. I wouldn't even give him up for a second round pick. What if Jalen just like broke his leg? I mean, what if something happened? Like you could feel like you could keep winning with Tanner McKee. So to me, you wouldn't entertain trading him till next year when it's like, well, he's not. We're not going to extend him, so you trade him. I think you keep him. I think 100% he's staying on my team, and then you try to flip him maybe next year. But I'm not giving up Tanner McKee, and I'd be stunned if Howie did. Now, if someone offered you a first round pick right now, it's like this doesn't get much better than that. But I don't think that's on the table. And a lot of teams don't necessarily need quarterbacks, but I'd I don't know if I could do it. I think the parallel probably to Tanner McKee would be Matt Schaub when he was in Atlanta and Jimmy Garoppolo when he was in San Francisco. So his value to the Eagles right now, because listen, they had Carson Wentz fall off a cliff, and they had for Jalen to come in, and they had Carson Wentz tear his ACL. So they've seen it multiple ways. You just never know. Now Jalen, I don't think is going to fall off a cliff playing wise, but shit, the way I mean he's a runner, he'd get injured. He's missed games before, so I would not trade him right now unless I got the first round pick, which you're not getting right now. But like, what about next offseason? What if the Raiders give you a second or something? Might be a bad example, but some team, whoever that is, LIV this week as their individual championship. Obviously, the Ryder Cup is right around the corner. John Rahm easily could have won in Chicago. He has yet to win this year. I think ultimately the Ryder Cup, we lost some when Tiger and Phil didn't play that well. Just like the last time, I think in Rome, Scotty Scheffler did not play that well. If they go into this Ryder Cup and John, I mean, it wouldn't shock me at all if he wins this week in Indianapolis. He's playing really, really well. If Rory looks good these next couple weeks, and all of a sudden the Ryder Cup is led by Rory McIlroy and John Rahm, like we're gonna need Scotty to be on his A game. Luckily he is, and then some other people to help him out because I think John Rahm's got a lot of momentum, and I also think just big picture for next year, I'll be a little stunned. This year for the first time in a couple years, he was right there with Scotty with 9 holes to go in the PGA Championship. I would expect him to be a major major factor at Augusta come the spring. It's a course that he's very comfortable with. He's obviously won there before. He's played well there many times. It's just kind of an event. He's a historian of the game. means a lot to him. So I think Rom, who kind of dipped once he left originally for Live, has kind of got his swag back. And the other thing that you see out at what I saw at Live Chicago and Bryson going on Pat McAfee, what he's kind of become for the sport. I was telling this to Colin. I was saying this to Scott O'Neill. I think currently Bryson is the Steph Curry of golf. He's just the guy that every casual person kind of knows and everyone pays attention to. The YouTube golf changed it. Hitting the long shots changed it. How good he is changed it. If you just say, I'm at a tournament and every single guy in the world that matters is at that tournament, who, if you just poll casual people, like, who do you want to see hit a shot right now? I think most of them would say Bryson. And he's another guy that's going to the Ryder Cup with Rom that, he to me, he was playing excellent early in the season. We'll see how he is coming in the Ryder Cup. I mean, he's going to be a major factor at the Ryder Cup in terms of how many times he plays, but he brings a buzz there that is really it's really hard to deny. I mean, he by far to me might be their best overall player. Like I think if you just put Rom versus Bryson and they played at 10 different courses in 10 different environments, I think I would say Rom's probably just the has more shit to his game, can just do more. But I think Bryson is the more just electric, the showman. There's the element of like he's kind of like Phil, and I think he's kind of the modern day Phil of just shaking hands, kissing babies, kind of just at this point in time in his life just kind of gets it. Question for you. My wife and I are going to Scottsdale in November. Any suggestions on places to eat or things to do? We will be near TPC Scottsdale. I know you were answered this a couple times. I would say the Princess has pretty cool open bar. They have a really good restaurant called La Hacienda in it's the hotel on the backside of TPC Scottsdale. It's hard to beat the really good steakhouses, Dominic's, which is in Kierland, and Mastro's, which is kind of up the street from TPC Scottsdale, which are just elite steakhouses. If you want like a hole in the wall, Guy Fieri, diners, drive-ins, and dives, uh, Tom's Thumb is this barbecue joint in a gas station. It's incredible. I get Thanksgiving catered from there. It's elite. So I'd say Dominic's, Mastro's, La Hacienda / Princess Bar, and Tom's Thumb. First, as an avid golfer, I'm curious what type of games, if any games, you play on the course. Scramble is fun if you're not worried about your own score. Two versus two. We do this game where you kind of, if you're playing four guys, you rotate every three holes with a different partner. You also play junk like birdies, um, outside putts of the flag stick, up and downs from the sand, close to the pin, stuff like that. Which is a pretty easy game. I mean, when I play my brother, we just play a straight up like match play. If I'm doing a one on one, I haven't done a scramble in a long time. Just by following your podcast for a while, it seems like most of your connections nowadays are within the Niners, Eagles, Chiefs. If given an opportunity, which organization would you want to be involved in the front office decision making for the next 5 to 10 years? Chiefs seems to be the obvious answer, but when thinking about Andy's age, Eagles youth, Kyle's youth, so on, it gets like a tougher decision. Yeah, I mean, I'd look at it from the standpoint of those three organizations are just in a way they're just all well run. I think the Eagles and the 49ers financially, I think they put out like the top 20 teams or whatever, their valuations, which if the Lakers win for $10 billion, the Cowboys, the Giants, the 49ers, I mean, these are 15, $20 billion franchises. The Eagles would sell for more than the Lakers. And that's not like, I'm not acting like the Lakers aren't some big time brand, but the power of the NFL, their revenue streams, and I think the money that Andy and Mahomes now have made Clark Hunt and the value of that franchise over the last 6, 7 years, they're just all like I know John Lynch, like I've met him before, I've had him on my other podcast years ago. But like I can't speak to how he is as like an evaluator, besides just watching who he drafts. Like I've been around Veach and Howie. Like those guys are really good at their jobs. I mean, really good. I mean, Howie's one of the most dynamic guys in all of sports. Veach just is a really good natural like talent selector. And obviously his rapport with the head coach and Howie's ability to kind of manage the whole thing. I think, the Niners really benefit. Like Kyle's just really pretty special X's and O's guy. He's one of the few guys. And listen, you can nitpick him, and I do, but like he's a really, really talented coach. He's just a coaching lifer. Been around it from the moment he could walk. And I think those guys really benefit from the financial backing, the fan backing, the talented guys they have within the organization. But I think you could say that like I don't know him personally, but I was texting a buddy in the NFL who works for a playoff team, not one of those teams. Like, what do you think of Brandon Bean? Because I've just seen Brandon a bunch, like doing different interviews. I've never met the guy, and the guy was like, I really like him. I was like, I do too. I just think he just kind of got an easygoing vibe, clearly good at his job, has like a low ego vibe, but he also, you know, for example, like let's use the 49ers. Like Kyle and John are comfortable in front of a camera and they don't mind. Like Kyle doesn't like doing it, but he's good at it if he wants to do it. Like Sean McDermott, that's not really his thing. So part of Brandon Bean's job, the day and age of guy like the GM just sitting in a dark room watching players is dead. Trent Baalke loved doing that. Just get him in a dark room, you can just watch players all day. It's like that's not your fucking job. Like part of Brandon Bean's job is like to be the messenger for the Bills because Sean McDermott's not really that big on that, which is fine. Like there has to be if you're in a business partnership with someone else, hopefully they bring things to the table that you don't. We got a lot of people that are involved with this podcast that are strong at social media, that are doing cut ups, that are doing the graphic stuff. I can't do any of that. Even the sales aspect. Like if you get me on a call with company X, I can handle myself, but I don't have a connection to get Walmart on the phone or Microsoft on the phone. So like you need to be in business with other people that the distribution that Colin brings, I can't create that. So it's like the ebb and flow of a coach and a GM, and like Sirianni and Howie bring that to the table. Like they balance each other out. And I think you can. The Bills are well run. The Ravens are well run. Like all these organizations, they're going nowhere. They have people that know what they're doing, and they have a lot of money behind it. I think that's part of the problem. I interviewed Greg Olson today, and it'll come out next week. And one thing he talked about is like you're on the phone with some of these teams when you're doing these games over the last 3 or 4 years, and you can just tell you're like, this team is fucked. I mean, people they just don't know what they're doing, and like you just can't fake it because the games happen. And then it's why like it is pretty easy for me to be critical of things that I see from a team operational standpoint because I've been around people that know what they're doing. I mean, I'm very fortunate. I didn't know anyone in the NFL, not a soul. I mean, not a, my dad was a farmer. And the team that hired me had Howie Roseman as the GM and Andy Reid as the head coach. So it's like that is my experience. And then right when I got out, I got to watch Jim Harbaugh be the head coach of the 49ers for 2 years. It's like, so basically, my experience in the NFL was just seeing that front and center for my first like 5 years of being, my first 5 years being around the NFL, I was around that. So that's kind of like, you just watch some of these operations, you're like, I don't know if these people know what they're doing. And listen, everyone, Bill Walsh had shitty games, right? Belichick had bad. I'm not saying you can have bad season, but it's pretty clear who's good, who's not, right? And I think part of it is experience, and you learn. I would bet on all three of those teams they're going to be good for a while. I would say, you know, if Andy were to retire, I don't think he's going to retire. As long as he's healthy, like he's going nowhere. So you look at their guys, like where would Howie go? Where would Andy and Veach go? They don't want to go anywhere. And where would Kyle go? So it's like as long as you got those guys. I mean, John's important, and obviously they need to draft well. But the star of the 49ers, even with Purdy making 180 million, is the head coach. You know, and Andy was the star of his organization for a long time until Patrick Mahomes showed up. So I would rather have I'd rather have my quarterback front and center, kind of like the Patriots forever, and then have my head coach basically be 1B. But I think all the organizations are in pretty good spots. Okay, we'll end on that. Adios. Have a great day. Talk to everyone soon. See you.